Good. So the recording is started.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, midday. What do you say at midday? Nice to see you all here. My name is Jarman Walsh. I usually go by JJ Walsh online. I'm talking about live streaming and doing a crazy amount of interviews within a year. And I'd be really happy if you just write in the chat if you have questions or comments along the way at any time. And this is the way I do live streaming as well. I love to engage with an audience. So if you have anything you want to say or comment on along the way, let's do it that way. And we'll try to wrap up at 50 minutes. How does that sound? All right, let me go through the presentation. It's very bare bones and basic. I had big plans to add beautiful pictures. You just have to use your imagination, but this will keep me on target for what I want to say and talk about. So like so many content creators, I've done loads of interviews in my life, as most things make me so curious, and I want to learn more about people and the places that I visit. At first, living in Japan, I was on a constant search for answers. But after so many years, I stopped noticing or stopped being curious. And I'm sure many of you who've lived in Japan or other places in the same place for a long time, you can identify with that. Luckily for me, having kids made me more curious about sustainability to create a better future for them. And it led to a career in sustainability and travel consulting. Now, finding answers is key to my job, and it helps me relay the information to an international audience, as well as highlight what they should already know to local people that I work with. So, I mean, what they should already know about their own culture, but they don't often realize there's so much value and there's so much appeal in what they see and do every day in terms of tourist appeal and bringing in outsiders to also appreciate things that they see and do every day. It's not surprising that we rarely seek out information about where we live, right? That's a normal human trait. But Corona moved work and research for me, like many other people, online, which led me to an interview series with people from across Japan. And in September, so I started it in April 2020, and in September this year, I hit the 300th interview. And I'm doing all the interviews online, live on multi platforms. And I've learned so much along the way. So today's talk is really to share some tips and advice and hard-learned lessons I have learned by trial and error in online interviewing that I hope will encourage you to try live streaming, try podcasting, try live audio discussions, or try other ways to apply your writing ideas to your interview style and maybe take it live once in a while. That's my aim for today. I'm operating only with the left hand, so please bear with. Okay, so why live? I think as a writer, you know about interviews and research, but why go live and share a first interview in real time for all the world to see? So I do a lot of research. I also often do a pre-chat just to make the guest at ease before we do our live session. But I try really hard not to take the edge off the freshness of our first conversation. So just to put the guest at ease, I usually run through some basic questions that I'm going to ask and just get any more links or information that they want to give me to help me with my preparation. But I don't want to have too much of the conversation. I want to wait until we're live and then have that conversation. Go full screen for the slideshow. It's too hard, no worries. Okay, full screen for the slideshow? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm doing, sorry. I can't see what you guys can see.
I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not sure how to do it because you have you're using like
Oh, is it not full screen?
Well, we can see your toolbar.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. So you can see all the notes.
Yes, we can see your slides for sure, but we can see your toolbar, like where your email and, you know, sort of.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. So if I close the email, now what do you see?
We still see the toolbar.
Oh, the toolbar. But you see the screen that says Why Live, but you see the toolbar. Definitely. Does that help?
Hold on one second. So Mel says, if it's something like Google Slides, do you see a present now button?
Yeah, I'm in present mode, speaker mode, so I can see my notes. So you can see my notes as well?
No.
Okay, then this might be as good as it gets then.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Carry on.
Okay.
No worries.
Sorry about that. Keeping it fresh. So I do a lot of research and I do communicate online with the guests, but I try to keep our initial conversation as fresh as possible. So I try not to talk too much, which is so hard because I'm so interested in these people and I want to talk to them. So it's so hard to limit myself, but I usually have to say, keep it fresh. Let's stop this and then going back to texting if they have any more questions. So because the main theme of my talks is sustainability and seeking ideas and inspiration for how we can balance the needs of people, planet, and profit, those three basic tenets of sustainability are a focus of all of the interviews that I'm doing. So no matter if somebody's talking about Japanese carpentry or rebuilding an old house or revitalizing rural communities, there are so many aspects of sustainability basically in everything. So trying to talk about a variety of topics, but also have that thread, the underlining thread and questions for how does this help improve our quality of life for people? How does it help protect the planet? And how does it create steady income, which of course we need as well to survive? The aspect of live stream offers transparency and accountability. And that's what is actually happening now. And the audience knows that they can engage and ask questions or make comments live, which I think is a really key aspect in connecting to people who have grown so skeptical of online media content and businesses or governments that say this is sustainable or this is ethical, but it's not, which we know is happening. And so having that live aspect where people can see in real time the conversation and it's not edited down, they know there's that layer of transparency, and that's really important for believability, accountability, and sustainability, definitely. So that's been a very important aspect of the finished product. I think this concept can inform and improve almost any type of writing project. There are key strategies to prepping for interviews, as well as running live shows, which engage with a live audience, which I'll talk about next. Okay. So make sure, of course, any writer knows this, do your research. If you're doing a live interview, you have to do twice as much research as you think you will need to use. that's a good ballpark. I usually spend a day doing the actual research and collecting of images and quotes and taking notes. But from the moment I book the interview from weeks ahead, I'm already thinking about it, and I search for new information when I can to get as wide of a birth of information as I can, to be prepared for anything. But also get to know your audience and find a time to go live when they can watch if possible. Now, earlier in the day, I was listening to your social media session, and there were so many great tips about this. I'm definitely going to look into how I can find better times, like buffer.com you mentioned, to find when my audience is online. There's also a lot of tools you can use on YouTube that tell you when your videos are being watched. So one of the nice things about doing it live multi-stream onto different channels is that it is stored on different channels, and each channel has its own unique set of data, which you can access later, and hopefully you can fine tune your audience in each platform to make it more effective and to make it at a time when they can catch you live. Keep it timely. Keep the time you promised. I usually keep mine to 60 minutes. I think that's because I grew up in America watching Barbara Walters doing 60 minutes, and I kind of aspire to be a journalist who interviews people for 60 minutes, and it's something that people want to watch. It seems to, in terms of giving me enough time to go in depth on a subject, also seems to be pretty good amount of time. Shout outs. So the number 3 tip, mention members of the audience you have seen them join live, especially if they're regulars, and read out part of their comments and thank them while you're live. Read out their question if it's good, or summarize a question in a way that you wanted to ask, which adds to the conversation. Giving out shout outs to companies that you're mentioning, resources that you're using. So a lot of the people I'm interviewing, they have already been interviewed by Japan Times. They have already been interviewed by other resources. So if I give them a shout out, then I can tag them in the comment section after, and hopefully, like people mentioned this morning, they will retweet my tweet, which includes my interview, and I will widen my audience that way. Number 4 tip, I would say block spam or abusive comments, especially if you're live. You don't want anybody who's spamming or highly abusive to have any comments which other people can see. And a lot of the live stream platforms, they allow you to block them while you're live. And that really helps you in terms of keeping your train of thought as an interviewer while you're live, as well as it helps kind of a positive, proactive community atmosphere as well. So keeping things as proactive and positive as possible will keep your audience and guests happier, unless you're doing a highly negative show and that's your style. There's enough negativity in the world, I feel, and I think people are looking for solutions and strategies to improve their life and our common future, and that's my passion. That's my reason to do what I do. So I don't want to dive into the negativity. Shout out resources by name, like I said before, and then original work in the comments with links to the original information where you got your research, if possible. And the more you can give credit where credit is due, it improves your respectability, improves your brand, and connects you with a wider audience, because if you tag them, hopefully they will appreciate that and they will share it to their audience as well. I've given a shout out to resources and later been able to get them on the show as well for an interview. So I really love when that happens. Next, so some pros and cons of live streaming. I think the trust, transparency, which I talked about, is a major issue. Engagement with community building with your audience, and people feeling like they have a connection with you and the guest, even as a listener, even as a member of the audience. Social media push is live, So you actually, if you're using various social medias, do this like Facebook, um, Instagram Live, if you're only doing Instagram Live, they really push the live feeds to their audience. So you get a lot more traction if you're live, and you might be able to get a lot more of your new audience who'd never heard of you before if they happen to see that you're live. It also reduces editing time. This is as someone who's trying to do a million things every day, and it's really hard to get everything done. Doing a multi-stream from one platform, which pushes to 5 platforms like I'm doing, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. It reduces the amount of time I need to be editing. So if I was doing high quality video audio and then editing that down and then uploading onto the different platforms, it would take me weeks to do one video. And when I'm in the flow and I've got lots of guest contacts who say yes, I'm doing it every weekday. And so I have had people say, I think you're doing too much because I can't keep up with it. But the fact that I have the time and energy to do it now and the passion to do it, and the people who I'm in touch with, they have the time and energy and passion to be guests on the show. It just makes me feel like now is the time to keep going. And I feel like after coronavirus and people get more into face-to-face again and less online, that there's going to be less opportunity to keep doing this. So it's up to you how often you're going to do it, but definitely reduces your editing time if you're doing it live. Multi-platform, you have a much wider audience. Like I said before, each audience for YouTube is basically people who only watch YouTube. Audience for Haps, people who are only on Haps. There's very few people who are regular audience members who are really dedicated to more than one type of social media. I wish I could multi-stream to Instagram, because a lot of my Instagram followers, I know that they would watch it if I was there, but I can't multi-stream to Instagram yet. Some pros and cons of live streaming. I'm sure you could guess most of them. So the transparency, community building, the push for live. But then on the negative side, you have unstable quality. So if you were recording it ahead of time, if you had even Zoom, you could do 2 channels. So you could have cleaner audio. I have to depend a lot on the kind of tech that the guest just happens to have. And we do get online 15 minutes early, and I try to give them some advice. Looks like you need a bit more light on your face. Do you happen to have earphones, because the audio is a little bit of an echo? So I can give them some tips before we start. But once we start, it is completely out of my hands. And if their live internet connection breaks and we have to restart again sometimes, usually it's my side that I'm having technical issues. But you know, that's all part of the charm of going live. So it doesn't seem like that puts off the audience that really likes the live too much. I'm sure that affects how many people want to watch it later as a restream. If your audio quality especially is not good enough, recently there's been a lot of articles about how audio quality is actually even more important than video quality. So as long as you have good audio, even if the visual's not perfect, people will watch it. And then I use the audio later and repurpose it as a podcast, which I'll touch on a bit later as well. So sometimes you also have live life events. So I have had my cats jumping into the screen, jumping on the keyboard. Not many guests have had problems. Maybe it's only a problem on my side. And like I said, poor access to quality audio or video. But to be honest, maybe because of Zoom and everybody working online, most people have at least the basic setup, so it hasn't been a big problem. The multi-stream that I use, different systems, just to give you an idea. So if you're doing a single stream on Facebook, a lot of people have a huge audience just on Facebook. There isn't really a big reason to multi-stream. You can just get on Facebook and start a live video, and then it'll be stored on your Facebook channel or your Facebook page. So it's very straightforward, pretty easy. Instagram, if you only want to stream on Instagram, very easy to do Instagram Live. You can get a great audience there. I know a lot of people who are really successful at just doing Instagram Live interviews, and then they are able to download that and put it up on YouTube just to have it on another channel later. But Instagram is one of the few social medias where they block multi-streaming. So if you want to do lives on Instagram, you have to only do a live on Instagram. You can't multi-stream. YouTube allows multi-streaming, but some people prefer just going live on YouTube. One benefit there is you would have higher quality. I'm using a platform called Haps, and it has banners that are kind of jama, or kind of ruin the aesthetic across the top. Some people don't like that. I'm not that keen on it, but the fact that Haps allows me to multi-stream so easily, doing a lot of what I was doing before in a very complicated way, simplifying it, that's why I really like using Haps. Twitch, you can also, a lot of people enjoy just doing Twitch streams. Reddit you can do as well. Multi-stream companies I was using to help me multi-stream to multiple locations at the same time. If you have an Apple computer, you can use Ecamm. Haps for any kind of computer, or you can do it on your telephone as well. Any Android or iPhone can use Haps to multi-stream. Prism is another app that you can use. OBS and Restream.io, just to give you an idea. There's a lot out there. For my research, I usually look a lot at other interviews that have been done, podcast videos, official websites and profiles of the person I'm talking to, social media posts. Sometimes the official channels, the information there is quite outdated. So if I look at their social media posts, I get a much better idea about what they've been doing more recently, which really helps to make the live stream more relevant, because a lot of the official website information is more professional or cleaned up, but it's often not as updated with what people are doing recently with projects. Various Google searches. So I spend a lot of time on Google. I feel like a detective researcher, which I really like. I do searches because all my guests, well, 99% of my guests are based in Japan or have lived in Japan for a long time. So I do Google searches in Japanese or English, or both Japanese and English, because I find a lot of interesting tidbits from only the English side, and then interesting insights from the Japanese side. So it's really fun when a guest will say, how did you find that? Or I can't believe you found that. Or wow, I didn't even think about that. So that's really nice. Post-production, what you have to do from a live to keeping it in a good format, you're gonna want to do some edits. So when you multi-stream the title and the information that you have, the front information that people will see if they search for that information, is really important. So you want to make sure you have the right title and you have the right description. Quite often the description I will write before I go live is different, because I don't really know exactly what we're going to dive into in the conversation. So then you're going to want to edit that first paragraph and edit the title to make it really reflect what you did talk about as much as possible. But make it catchy. You got to have your hook. you know, try to get your audience there. It's also really a good thing to add your links and shout outs to all the references that you used, that you talked about in the interview, and then let those companies or people know that you have added them and their information as well. And hopefully they'll retweet or share the information or look at the video and comment at least. I would also, if you're on YouTube especially, but I think most of the platforms have some semblance of this, is you add chapters. So you would add like 0.08 you started, and then 1 minute 36 you started talking about this topic. So you would just have really short titles with the time written, and then it'll automatically show it on the screen. So if people want to jump ahead to the part that they're looking for, that they're really interested in, that'll help you get more traction and more people looking at your videos. I do not have time to do this every time, but I really want to. And I know that if I did, I would have more people looking and finding the information they want. It's always my plan when I do have a break in interviews that I have time to go back through all the old interviews, all this great content, and write those chapter titles so that hopefully I can get more people accessing all the great information. Also, you want to make sure your summary intro and insights for your podcast version. So I would really recommend not only going live, but reutilizing the audio to put into a podcast. Podcasting, the audio listeners, this is a whole new area of audience that you might not tap into if you're only going for the video format. So if you can do a podcast version, if you can write a post summarizing it and have your link to your video version and your podcast version, that's the ideal. That's what you should aim for, although it's very time consuming. But definitely using the audio and making a simple podcast, adding your summary in the beginning or introduction in the beginning, which kind of summarizes what people are going to find in the podcast. That'll keep people listening. Strategies: consistent with time and place, consistent structure, positive as much as possible, transparent, multi-platform broadcasts, and PR multi-platform. So even though I'm not streaming to LinkedIn, I'm not streaming to Instagram, I do a lot of promotion for the stream beforehand with Canva created little posters or social media kind of GIFs, information that way, as a way to try to get people to watch live or get people to watch the replays if they missed it live. And you have to do that a lot because you're not going to hit your audience all the time. There's a lot of PR that your audience who are interested are not going to see on a lot of these platforms. So I would suggest doing a little blurb before the talk, and then doing a little blurb on all your social media after the talk. And then when you make the podcast version, doing another blurb. And then if you have like a lot of traction for one of the videos, it's a good chance to get on Twitter and say, hey, I'm getting a lot of traction on this. Why don't you have a look? Or I had a great comment and question on this, and putting it on Twitter or Instagram or something and asking people to go have a look. So those are my strategies. And that's it in a nutshell. Let's see, I haven't had a chance to look at your comments so far. Anybody have any questions or comments? Ooh, people are popping over to see haiku. That sounds interesting. Subtitles, yes. YouTube is moving ahead with subtitles using AI. And this is a really nice new kind of aspect of what YouTube is offering. Really nice to see. But the fact that YouTube is now connected to Google, right? So when YouTube videos now have the automatic subtitles in multiple languages, that means that your information from the videos is also being listed in the Google algorithm. So one exciting thing, which I wanted to show you a screenshot of, but I couldn't do, sorry. I have one hand today, is a screenshot of when you search Google and your video comes up from the interview. Now Google is doing the titles with the timestamps, like I said, and it's doing easier search by topic from the interview. So it is transcribing a lot of the videos, I think, getting ready for this new AI subtitle version that they're launching. Any tips on how to structure your questions for the interview? Good question. Start with easy. How do you keep yourself on time, on track? Make sure you cover what you wanted. Yeah, good question, Emma. So the questions, people who are guests who usually don't do interviews, they're usually really worried about what questions I'm going to ask. But hopefully they can go and watch some of the other interviews and know that I keep it positive and it's all about promoting the good work that they do. And I'm not going to try to tear them down. But basically about the person's past, like their profile, how did they get started with this project, or how did they get interested, a bit of their past, and then talking about the present, what is the nuts and bolts of the project right now, things they're really passionate and excited about, and then this present part of the talk is when I'm adding a lot of photos and short videos and information from other information that I found of their interviews online or my research about them. So the present part, and then we finish the last 10 minutes is about the future. So what would they love to do next, or what about what they're doing would they like to change or really hope that it can continue, and what are the hurdles, right? So talking about past, present, and future. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then keeping time, I think because I'm constantly looking at people's comments and questions, I'm also looking at the clock, and I always start my talks either at 9 o'clock, 12 noon, or 5 o'clock. So when I look at the clock, like today, I know I started at 12, so I've been going for 33 minutes, right? So then it's just kind of easier. I don't know, you just get used to it about the timing. You know that you're going to be doing 60 minutes. I think it would be harder if you were fluctuating your time. But if your aim is a certain time, like 60 minutes, you just know that, oh, I've got these 3 pictures that I want to talk about. So you just kind of aim for maybe 10 minutes each picture, or 10 minutes each anecdote that you want to add, or each quote from the book or something. I've done over 250 live interviews and comments and questions of, oh, that's what I said, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so in May, I had done over 250 live interviews. In September, stop the screen share. Yes, good idea. In September, I passed the 300 mark. Oh, my computer does not want me to stop sharing. Huh.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Can you, oh no, I see it now. I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is it better?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions I missed? Joan, do you see any?
I'm just looking, let's see, structuring the questions. I think I just had a comment. I'm just making sure. Any first baby steps that you would consider? Because I think actually, oh, sorry, my video's off. Sorry about that. So I think actually, I think this could be a really useful alternative tool for authors because video and podcasting is something people really enjoy and they want to access it. And so, however, for a lot of authors, or maybe just me, I don't really know anything about this. Like, this was an excellent overview, but now I'm super excited. And so, do you have any baby steps that you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's so daunting, right? To dive right into multicasting. I'm not sure why I was so into gung-ho multicasting from the beginning. I think I had listened to a couple people who are really having a lot of traction online with social media, and they were saying, if you can multicast, go to as many channels as you can. Why not? And then see where your audience is having the most traction. And I'm not sure where my audience is having the most traction, to be honest. But I think part of that problem is I'm doing so many different topics, right? Like, it's all over the place. I mean, for me, the underlying theme is sustainability, but I can talk about sustainability for anything.
Right.
People are really into like remodeling old houses. That's always a really, really popular topic. Of course, very connected to sustainable, trying to keep Japanese culture alive, trying to reuse something that's waste, you know. But I would choose the social media you like. So this is, you know, you can tell some people they like Twitter. Some people, they like Instagram. They like Facebook. So if the social media that you like using, that you're comfortable using, if they have a live stream option, try doing it there. That's the best way, right? No, but you don't have to go to multiple channels. But I think when I was starting, I was still searching for where my audience might be. And to be honest, because I'm trying to promote the work of other people and the good work that they're doing, I'm still expanding my audience. Like, I'm still looking into podcasting and different groups on audio. Maybe I'll start audio live streaming, which is such a big new genre, right?
Oh, wow.
Like, you have on Twitter, you have all these people audio live streaming. Maybe that's a better audience. I think the tech is changing so fast that it's not a bad thing to multi-stream, but definitely in terms of baby steps, start where you're most comfortable.
That's good advice. Yeah, that's definitely good advice. Yeah, and I agree.
Even if it's just a Zoom call, you know, like if you have, I've seen this a lot on YouTube, like a group that all share the same interest, and then they would invite a guest speaker and have a Zoom call and record it, and then they would put that on YouTube later. So the live audience is heavily invested. You're going to get the best questions and comments because everybody is so interested in that topic. So that might be a less daunting way. You don't have to deal with random spammers trying to write any comments that don't make sense or anything, right?
Right. Oh, and that was another question I had, sorry. And other folks, because I'm sort of hosting this Zoom room, I'm just chatting, but feel free to interrupt me. I'm totally interruptible, I should mention, in this situation. But that was another question I had too. You talked about how you could set it so that you could block spammers and negative comments. And is that something that happens actively while you're in the interview, or is that something that happens later, or is it some sort of magical setting for?
No, the platform I'm using, Haps, as my main platform, and then I'm sending my multi-streams out to different locations from Haps. they allow me to set like a slide meter. So are you going to allow all comments? Are you going to allow, if it looks like spam, allow our algorithm to block it? So you can choose your sliding scale.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I think that helps a little bit. But unfortunately, yeah, I had one interview with Baye McNeil, and I know he's here today. And we had some horrible, abusive comments happening as we're live. And so I was really grateful that there is the live blocking function, but it wasn't working for some reason. So, you know, like we stopped the interview and then started again. And I put my block meter much higher on the slide scale.
Right.
Because you don't want to do that. You don't want to distract your guest or insult your guest with that, you know? So I think the platform I'm using now, they've gotten a lot stricter because I talked to them about that after, and I said, this is horrible. You can't allow this to happen again. And so it's never happened again since that. So I'm really sorry to Baye that happened. But that's another point which I didn't mention. Of course, while you're live streaming, it is going out to multi-platforms and it is being saved on the different locations, but you can go and edit it after, right? So that's what something people are worried about. I don't know if I want to do a live interview. What if I say something wrong? You know, what if I give the wrong information and they're really worried, especially Japanese people, they just don't want to get it wrong, you know? And so I say, if that happens, I can go back and I can edit that out. Because anything where people are watching the replay, they assume that's edited. And so most of the time I don't have to, there's no problems. But for example, if my computer completely crashes and we have to restart, or, you know, spammers are doing abusive comments, we have to restart, I edit it by putting the two parts together, or I would edit out the problem part so that people watching the replay would have a smoother experience. For the podcast, I also edit out any technical issues or when my cat jumps on my keyboard, that kind of stuff.
Nice. We've got a question from Mike who asks, do you use a different tool for editing the video after the live stream or the same tool you used to create the live stream?
Very good question. I have not found a live stream platform that allows you to live stream and edit. So it's a different software that's on my computer. I'm using a Mac, so I'm using iMovie. I know a lot. I'm not doing a lot of editing. It's very basic. But I do know a lot of people who are editing videos so beautifully, and they're using a variety of software. But I have never heard of anyone using a multi-stream or live platform and that has editing. I just haven't heard of one. But if you know of one, let me know, because that sounds interesting.
Nice.
Questions, comments? Yeah, it's not really something that seems obvious for writers, but I completely think if you are writing a book and you're in a chapter and you're doing so much research anyway, there's no harm in you, even if you're not interviewing someone, in you as the writer, getting on a live with an audience that knows you and trusts you and is excited about your book, and read them a chapter, or tell them your ideas, or tell them your hurdles. And the kind of feedback and engagement you'll get from your audience can really spur you on, I think. And if you're writing a chapter about something and you find someone who's doing something interesting connected to that, you could do an online interview, and it might really help your writing as well as get you that deeper experience by doing it live. It makes you nervous doing it live, right? But I think that's a good thing, right? You do your research, you're nervous, you're kind of hyped, and then you're inspired after to write it down or to share it more.
Yeah, I could see that it would. I mean, for me personally, just thinking about different projects and sort of a book proposal that I'm working on, like for me, I think it would be interesting to, to do a live stream either on location with someone that I'm writing about, or just to interview them in general, or to talk about that process. Yeah, I think that because often we end up, I think writers, well, and you talked about this as well, like with all your research, you end up with a lot of extra information. And so, which is wonderful, but sometimes you're like, oh, I'm really excited, I want to do more with this. And so sort of, trying to figure out what to do with it or how to use that to everyone's advantage can be tricky.
It is. Yeah. But I don't know if I mentioned, a lot of the people who are the most difficult to do research for are people who do not have an online presence, right? So I read their book, or, I find out information about them from them, but then they don't have any other information online. So it's really hard to get like the deep interview. But some of those interviews are the most fascinating. And then I realize how much I've missed later on. And then I have them back on and see, I can't believe I missed this part, because people aren't used to bragging about themselves all the time, right? So I think that's my job as the interviewer, to find all the good stuff and try to bring it out of them. But sometimes I miss my mark. I'm proud now that when I search Google for someone who did not have an online presence before, that I'm their interview, I'm their research when other people are searching online. So that's awesome. That's a really nice point of pride as well.
Yeah. What's an example of that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Recently, I think it's mostly authors, because I get the book and I read the book, I do the interview, and then that's like their only online interview or online research. And then other people do interviews after me. Yay. So happy when that happens.
That's awesome. Actually, Joy, I've got 2 questions I'm going to ask you. One, because I know you're not typing friendly at the moment because you're single-handed, can you please tell me your website? And I'm going to put it in the chat so people can easily find it.
Okay. And I am the same as I mentioned earlier. My website is not my most recent projects and passion, but it is kind of a amalgamation of most things that I do. Yes. Inboundambassador.com.
Inboundambassador.com. And if they wanted to find your live stream, how would they do that?
You can search Google for Seeking Sustainability Live, and it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitch. It goes live onto my Twitter feed, which is JJ Walsh. And I try to post updates and PR on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. And then the podcast, under the same name, Seeking Sustainability Live, if you prefer to listen. Thank you, Joan. So nice.
Sure. No, that's my pleasure. I'm very happy to do that. All right, we are at, holy cow, we're at 12:49. Does anyone have any questions or anything for Joy? Okay, I think we're all right. Well, yeah, Joy. Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for a remarkable presentation. It was very,
thank you.
Something I had never thought at all about. So thank you for that.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing your interviews someday. Let me know. Okay. Give me a tag and I'll be sure to tune in.
We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, awesome. Good luck.
All right. Okay, I think All right. I think, well, we're at 12:49, so I think we'll call it, I think we'll call it good. Yeah, thank you so much, Joy. This was fantastic. I enjoyed it immensely.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to stop.